Most of you will have heard that most hamstring strain injuries occur during the terminal swing phase of sprinting, but the jury's out as to whether it's really that terminal swing phase or in the first few hundred milliseconds post-contact with the ground. They think it's around about that time, all right, or around that period within the gait cycle. If you have a look at those hip and knee angles, what I've basically done is take the 30-30 supine. Yeah, just take a minute to get that in. This is some weird artwork that I've done in Canva. Right, so what we basically have is a standing 90-20, the supine 90-90. Obviously, I didn't get him to do some sort of Mr. Miyagi stuff on here. Like I basically just rotated his picture from a supine position. And then same with the supine 30-30. Now you could add in the hip iso push as well. The point being, if you look at the hip and knee angles compared to where the apparent terminal swing phase of sprinting is, none of them fully neatly align. Actually, probably the closest is the 30-30 to this position here, if you look at it. Possibly your hip iso push is also quite closely resembling that terminal swing phase of sprinting and that initial point at touchdown. So that could be a rationale for choosing those angles. In fact, when I speak to people, which one you choose is totally your choice, but oftentimes it's not really thought through. It's just kind of something that they've ended up doing. But there's pros and cons with all of them. 90-90 is the easiest one because you can use the iometer to approximate 90 degrees at the hip at the angle, hip and the knee. You need goniometry or some other measurement to be able to get obviously those other joint angles nailed down. But then most of the research is in favour of the 90-20. It's interesting. If you look at the work of Anthony Blazevich out in Australia at Edith Cowan University, the peak torque capabilities of the hamstrings occurs with around 80 to 90 degrees at the hip and between 35 and 0, so 0 being full knee extension of the knee. And in fact, that's going to give you probably the peak torque generating position for the hamstrings, but none of those previously published papers are anywhere near those angles. What I would say is they've all shown to have utility in the research. They've all been shown to have utility in practice because I get to speak to people like yourselves on a regular basis, and I know whichever one somebody's chosen, if they're using it for like acute monitoring reasons, then it does have a place. So I would say just pick whichever one you think is likely going to get the best buy-in from the players and what you're likely able to do within the facility and the tech elements that you've got available to you, and then stick with it. I don't think we need to be doing a long and a short lever unless you're using it as part of training for like return to sport or something where you may want to do that.